Welcoming you to the Leela Podcast, a place where you can discover all things Osho Leela. You'll get to meet the community, learn about community life, and listen in as we share about our upcoming events and workshops from the perspective of the facilitators and the attendees, supporting you to find your way to Leela. Welcome to the Leela Podcast, and today we have a very special guest. His name is Shyen.
Hello.
And he has been living at Leela with us for the last few months, so quite new. However, he has already been a very active member of the community. He has been offering lots of goodies, and his skills and just his presence actually has just been really, really beautiful to have around. So I'm super excited to introduce you to him. This is part of our series of where we get to know the community members, we get to know who's here, we get to experience who they are and what they're offering at Leela is. So yeah, let's get stuck in. Welcome, Shyan, to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me.
Yay, my pleasure. So what would be really great is if we start with kind of how you came to Leela. So that kind of like the weaving, the moment when the thought came in, or the synchronistic moment, or somebody said something, whatever it is. So start with telling your journey.
Okay. So I just returned from roughly 8 years of working overseas in international schools, and came back to England, and like many people, I'd been on a certain trajectory, and then I'm working really interesting schools, especially around sustainability. And then COVID happened, and the path that I've been on, I just completely lost track of that. And it was quite difficult for a few years to find a sense of belonging. And then being back in England, I was looking for probably another school to work in, or at least an education environment that was in a similar vein to the path that I'd been on. And I was really struggling and really trying to force where I was going. And then I think it was just a Google search where I was searching for alternative schools or alternative education, those kind of things. And Leela popped up in the search results somehow. I can't quite remember what the search term was. And I'd visited various permaculture projects and eco-villages as I'd been travelling, and it really just leapt out. And so I think I came really to try and get a week's break from the constant trying to fix life and find a solution to life. And that was the only intention, really. So I was coming to the Biodanza Festival, and I didn't know anything about Biodanza, never heard of it, and I walked through the doors here still not knowing anything about it. It was really just to be part of the community and see what was happening here. And that was the start of things.
Wow, so you came as a festival volunteer.
As a festival volunteer.
Yeah. So that's kind of one of our newer ways of bringing people to Leela is through volunteering at the festivals. And then you stayed, or you came back? I can't remember.
Yeah, so I stayed for that festival, and I was very fortunate in that the role that I had really worked for me. So I very quickly made friends, as you do here, with various people. And one of those was a fellow volunteer called Aloha. And he kind of invited or suggested that we work together on the setup team for the festivals, which was just extraordinary because I felt like we had an overview of everything that's happening, and we're going to all those different spaces and speaking to facilitators and getting a real sense of what the festival entails here and what's included. So I think within a very short space of time I realised I wanted to stay here for longer, and was asking if I could stay for the other festivals. So I think I went away for just a few days to see some family that I'd previously arranged, and then came straight back in for the second festival. And then one thing led to another, and each festival rolled on through the summer, enjoying the beauty of the campsite and just really beautiful evenings walking across the campsite and getting used to being so connected to nature under the oak trees and the moon, getting used to the roe deer waking up where my tent was positioned. She'd quite often be in the corner there, and started just to really fall in love not only with the community but the land and the energy here as well.
Wow, Wow, beautiful. Yeah, it was. I remember, obviously, because we didn't really even hardly speak over the summer, because I think we were just like, even though we're all like living together, we're just like moving, aren't we? Moving pieces of puzzles.
Yeah.
And but you and Aloha's also a very loved member of our extended family, comes in for festivals and so on, and you just both seem to have it down. You were like, you were there everywhere, and everything was like getting done, and yeah, I could see that kind of lovely relationship between the two of you as well.
Yeah, and I think there's an element of that was the work side of things. So having worked in lots of schools, I hadn't gone straight into education. My career's had various different stages to it. So the sort of events organisation side of that felt quite natural to me. I could see the bigger picture of that. But also I think the thing that happens here is through the people you meet and through the culture and environment that's here, the opportunity to rediscover parts of yourself which are completely authentic but that might have been buried for some time. And Aloha felt like just the perfect friend to meet at that time, in that he brought out a sort of a mischievousness and playfulness that I really enjoyed throughout that time. And some just amazing memories. So, for example, one moment really stuck in my head was one of the festivals, and we got to know the DJs. So we'd be going into the marquee before everyone else arrived. And it was right at the end of the festival, and we went in, just the two of us, got everything set up, and then said to the DJ, "Could you put these tunes on?" And we were just running around the marquee, just having the most amazing time. And then people started to walk across the marquee, and there was just so much energy by the time they arrived there. It just felt really ecstatic. So those, just lots of really fun, exuberant memories.
Yay. Lovely. What a beautiful way to spend your summer.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
You and Aloha are having lots of fun and playfulness, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yay, great. And you mentioned the connection with the land, and from knowing you a little bit now, I understand that is beyond an appreciation, actually. Like I sense you have a really deep connection with nature and a poetic connection with nature, and some of the things that you've been already sharing with the community, forest bathing, your musical talents as well, I've noticed. And you sent me a beautiful clip, you'll see it on Instagram and Facebook, of a poem that you just beautifully sent over and put voice to it, put music to it. Do you want to talk into your connection to nature, and that'd be lovely to hear.
Yeah, so my dad was a gamekeeper, which so I was involved in the hunting, shooting world. So I think my dad's disowned me because I'm now a vegetarian and I can't imagine shooting something now. But whilst I completely understand some of the concerns around shooting and some of the objections to it, there is another side to it that I was immersed in from a really young age, which is woodland management and time spent in nature. So I was cutting rise through doing essentially woodland management by the time I was 5, 6. And there were lessons that my father would teach me that he wouldn't be spoken. And I think that's where a lot of my nature connection came to. So I wrote a poem called Father's Lesson, which is about he had a way of asking you to do things. So he would come in, and I still remember the moment he did this. And he came in the one evening and he said, "The chickens had her chicks."
The chickens
had her chicks.
Had her chicks.
So they've hatched. So okay. And then he said, the fox will come tomorrow. I said, right, okay, sort of wondering what's this got to do with me, kind of thing. And he said, yeah, so if you don't mind getting up at 3 o'clock tomorrow morning and sitting in the tree, I think you'll get the fox with the gun. So this was a school day, and I've climbed up the tree with the gun, thinking, what on earth am I doing here? It's one of those really amazing kind of mornings that we've had here recently, with really thick mist, red light, just very ethereal. And I sat at the tree, nothing happening, and then this burst of colour started coming through the mist towards me, and I held my breath and moved the safety catch and was sat there almost shaking in the tree. and then quickly realised it was actually again a roe deer with her fawn coming towards me, and again just remained holding my breath, and the deer came right up to me and nudged my foot off the leaf, took the leaf, and then looked up into my eyes. And yeah, to be that close to a deer and to look into its eyes and just be completely at ease with each other and have that connection, those opportunities were created by my father in ways that weren't spoken. I don't know if he knew that or but I spent a lot of my youth in those kind of situations, and now when we talk about forest bathing and those things, I was doing that long before I'd ever heard that term. It was just having those opportunities just very naturally.
Wow, beautiful. Wow, I actually used to go to hunts when I was a child. It was called beating. You obviously know.
All that kind of stuff, yeah.
So I can resonate with just through going. I'm a vegan now, so it's just I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh. But the connection to nature and like running through fields and trying to like get through massive things of kale and like the adventure of it, and then also the standing in a field with cows and just standing there like dead quiet. So I'm like, there's cows over there, and feeling like the frost on the tips of my fingers, and just like that, a deeper, without knowing. And I used to go with my grandpa, who was also very, very connected to nature. Would have never thought that back then. As I reflect on it, it's like he did everything slowly, methodically. He'd be listening, and I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, like all the lessons I learned, but also what I didn't, because I didn't go deeper into that inquiry with him, on so many levels. But wow.
And all those old countrymen, it's so much about observation and tuning. They weren't men of many words, I think, a lot of them.
No.
But what they were seeing in nature and the tiny signs that they would pick up on, and the sound of one bird, and they knew that the fox was coming through, or that there's a deer there, or all those things were quite remarkable to watch. And see.
And you probably know, because I was reading about the 8 shields.
Oh, no, I don't know.
Oh, you don't? Okay, so it's like a I don't want to butcher it. It's like a cyclical. It's a way of leadership, basically. And the guy who created it, he shared about his childhood, very connected to nature, and he used to have a neighbour that would ask him, like, what did he notice?
Right.
So he'd be walking to school every day down the same pace. What did you notice? And he's like, oh, I noticed the birds, this. And he goes, what else? And he's like, I didn't notice anything else, And then he'd go back the next day and he'd be like, what else? To notice. And he'd realise, there was this little nest with these babies, which had already been there a few weeks, but he hadn't noticed it before. And it's called coyote learning, I think.
Right, okay.
I hope I've got that correct. But it really inspired me, because it was just like, the curiosity of children. And you know all about this, because you're still teaching, right? You're still doing some teaching. And whereas now everything is, attention is on phones, is on television, is on. It's like the curiosity of a child, feels so important. It feels like, wow, what if everyone had like an elder that just put a little thought into a child's mind, and then and he connected it with people caring more when they are older for nature, because they have that relationship, they develop that relationship. It's like interesting, hey?
And there's several things come to mind with that. So I love how different traditions arrive at the same understanding. So there's something in what you said, I think, which comes from the Buddhist tradition of like, are you really seeing? And that I read something recently which was the master, the student comes to the master and says, I think I've got it, kind of thing. And his question is something along the lines of, did you notice the vase on the side table? And he says, no. It's like, well, you're not really observing that. And then I remember watching an interview with a Welsh poet, and they said to him that all your poems seem to have this theme of travel in them. but it's always very ambiguous as to where you've travelled in the poems. Can you tell us about where it is that you've travelled to? And he says something like, well, you see that hedgerow just there? He said, that's as far as I've travelled. And the interviewer was really shocked, but he was getting that there's so much to see, and we live in this age of being able to travel incredible distances and all the richness that comes from that. But actually, to look deeply and almost into the fractals of life, there's more and more to see. And then the final thing that came to mind as you were speaking as well is I did my forest school practitioner training recently, and it was a real joy because I did it with my 2 nieces and a group of their friends. So they're now 4 and 6. Oh. And the first session, there wasn't a lot of nature connection. It was why would I learn the name of this tree? And they were more interested in the sort of social dynamics of being there together. And it only took 2 sessions, and that come to know this tree and come to know that actually to sit on that stump and look across a field brings me solace, or I can hang a hammock up between those 2 trees and that's my fun. And it, I really remember the 3rd session, suddenly they just went up and started hugging trees, and they'd never heard of that or seen that. It was just, we know this now, we've come to know these things, and we're in a relationship now, and just how naturally that happens.
Yeah, beautiful. Wow, what a lovely experience with your nieces as well.
Yeah, the youngest one's particularly into it, and is constantly munching on hawthorn leaves and all sorts of things. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. It's really beautiful. Wow. So, I was going to bring it back to kind of more recently now, being in Leela, and so you have taken on a role.
Very new.
Very new.
Yeah.
What is it? What is your actual?
I think this is only last night.
Yeah.
So I think it's head of gardens, although we were discussing whether it's head of grounds because there's various elements to it. Yeah. And it's amazing because Leela has been in a transformation. So if you haven't been to Leela for a few years, it was actually, I think it was about 2 years ago, where we sat around a fire, and I'm sure this has been visioned before as well. But we sat around a fire in Tarisha, who's one of our community members here, and she led us in a visioning, and we all dreamed what we wanted at Leela, and this kind of idealist, like what could we dream in order to bring through into fruition, and it was polytunnels, and it was growing our own food and being more sustainable, and there's always been land management, there's always been growing food. I don't know how long for actually, but in the last year and a bit, we had nothing, like we didn't have any polytunnels. We didn't have like a huge big team. It's all happened like in this last year and year and a quarter maybe. And so it has transformed. And actually we'll put some photos in the podcast as well, just so you can see some of the transformation. And you've been a part of that. We've got a huge team. We've got people that have come in and in specific areas as well, and they've taken ownership of like wanting to grow vegetables in the polytunnels or grow vegetables in the existing gardens, and so many more. But would you like to speak into that? I'd love to hear. Yeah. Well, what fascinated me about it was, if I was to sort of describe my dream role, it would include things like the opportunity to do practical permaculture. It would include nature connection. It would include increasing biodiversity, a real focus on perhaps not just sustainability but regeneration, and also the sort of meditation side and the social aspect of that. So I did a course with Gaia Education, which is called Designing Regenerative Cultures, and in that they talk about 4 quadrants. So that's the ecological, the economic, the social, and also the worldview, just the way we perceive nature and the world. And all of those things are happening within this role. So yes, there's the polytunnels and the organic gardens, and having the opportunity to be part of that and see the food coming into the kitchens here. Just this morning I was tasting incredible winter greens with all this mustardy, spicy flavours, which was just incredible. there's also a real focus on rewilding and biodiversity increase here. And another community member, John Kramer, who's really over that and doing all sorts of things to boost biodiversity. We've then got these incredible sacred locations around here that we're trying to give the reverence that they deserve and bring them back in. And I was working out there this morning, and people were walking up and down into the nature reserve, saying, "Oh, I saw that stump that was there. I just sat there and it's beautiful." And I saw where you put the circle around the old stump and just sat there, and it's got such special energy, hasn't it? And so personally, it's amazing because I'm combining all these things that I've been working on and love in a way that I almost couldn't have dreamt was possible, to have all of those in one place. And then in terms of for Osho Leela, what's happening, I think, is the interconnections between all those things. So can we think about multiple functions to a space which increase biodiversity, create an incredible space to meditate and be at one with nature, that can increase the amount of food that we have to forage and bring in the kitchens to make us more self-sufficient. And that interconnection, I think, is a really important concept in what we're exploring, the questions we're exploring.
Yeah, beautiful. It's very exciting.
It's amazing, yeah.
It's very, very exciting. Super exciting. And yeah, we've spent like a whole summer, kind of too much too much salad at one point, it was just like amazing. And just to see everybody's input in all the different ways as well, and their visions like coming to life. It's really beautiful. So yay, thank you for being part of that.
Yeah, thanks for everyone. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
community collaboration.
Yeah, lots of real collaboration. Cool. So you're here, you're planning on hanging around a while.
Yeah, I'm here for the next year, I believe now, so that's very exciting. And I talked about belonging right at the very start. And it sounds ridiculous, but the first day I walked in here was the first time in at least 3 years where I felt I belonged. I read Brené Brown's book. I can't remember what it's called now.
Belonging.
I can't remember what the title is, but she talks about belonging, and it's something along the lines of a place where we can culturally practice our spirituality together and have this sense of hope and holding each other in that hope and that future. And I'm not articulating it anywhere near as eloquently as she does, but again, that was really evident as soon as I walked in, that sense of belonging. So to know that I'm grounded here now and can be part of that. And there's all sorts of dreams and aspirations that I have, but I think Bob Dylan said, to whisper your dreams. I don't feel quite ready to let them all out yet, but I think there's just unending potential here in terms of what we can do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Aurora, who's behind the camera, and we talk a lot about play, and the playfulness, and just like visioning things and bringing them through, and sometimes they happen like this, and then sometimes there's some maturation, I don't know if that's the right word, but like some time, and it needs to mature, and it's kind of, it does feel limitless, it does feel like there's this sense of like, wow, what else can we dream, what else can we vision, and beautiful, hey?
Absolutely. I think we've just had the gardening weekend here, which was a really amazing event to be part of. So people just coming as volunteers to help move some of the projects that we've got out on the grounds forwards, in a real spirit of connection again and mindfulness as we worked. And so the first principle of permaculture is observation, which is such a we can apply that in so many different areas of our lives. And as we were observing, as we were working and peeling back things like a bramble and nettle, and just these amazing things were being revealed that previous community members or current community members were put in place and was starting to be reclaimed by the land. And each time we open that up, all these opportunities possibilities would just open up before us, and I think that's just going to continue to happen in so many different dimensions here.
Yeah, I believe so. Yay. So, because I know that we are also opening up ways of being at Leela, which are quite new. So, could you speak into them?
Ways of being, yeah. Yeah. So, I'm really interested. So one way to think about this, I think there's endless things you could talk about on that question, but I'm really interested in Ken Wilber and integral theory. And I've been focusing on that mainly from partly in an educational setting, but also in terms of integral life practice and what that means. And he focuses on the external worlds and the internal worlds. And I've spoken recently about the Balinese concept of skala and niskala, which I believe to be the seen and the unseen. And I think when we come back to ways of being, I think that as an educator, there are times where I spent so much time here with the intellect, and intellect is a way of knowing. And I've been really fascinated by, well, what role does imagination play in our way of knowing, and what role does emotion play in our ways of knowing, and soul and intuition. And I think that one of the things I noticed really quickly here is there's space to work and to be with those different ways of knowing. So when we work, it's not that goal focused, can we get this done in a certain time? It's like, no, let's observe, let's be intuitive in how we go about this. What wants to happen, what needs to happen next, what do you want us to do, and be able to step back. And as a result, I think what I've noticed in my own way of being, I drew a card the other day, and it was talking about water, and almost that this being in the water didn't have a head. Everything was just flowing from intuition and from heart. And I think being here allows you to be that way. And so Kate was talking the other day about how she felt that she had got to a point in life where everything was coming from within to without, and I think that's, obviously I've mentioned lots of different things there, but I think that gives a bit of a sense, the essence of what it means to the way of being here, or the opportunity to be a certain way here.
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, that kind of, it feels more like the feminine kind of, the balance anyway, like the head, the heart, the masculine, the feminine, the structure and the flow. And because we come from a paradigm of a very heady do energy, and I'm really interested in that kind of like, where is that balance as well, and how can we have the structure that's required, but also it's being guided actually from the being. It's being guided from the feminine, it's being guided from the dreams and the intuitions. And how do we shift that whilst also things need to be done and organised, and so on. And it always, for me anyway, comes back to feet on the ground, breath, movement, playfulness. Actually, where am I being a little bit too serious and in here? Okay, let me just dance a little bit more. So it feels like an ongoing kind of inquiry of my own personal life, and also in a Leela life as well. And I think you're definitely leading it with the gardens side of things there as well.
Yeah, hoping to. I think it's really important what you said as well about grounding again, because it's lovely to be more transcendental and to spend time in those spaces, but then it's got to manifest and see some action and change, and I think that again that happens here with all the ways that you're talking about, so we can really see it and then we can play, but actually in the play the great ideas come out, or different ways of thinking. It's like, oh, wow, if we had more opportunities just to play, perhaps we'd have more great ideas like this. And then it always strikes me how often people talk about the work here and how much they enjoy the work, and it can be things like cleaning a toilet, or I remember the first week here of hoovering a lot. And because, again, the way of being here, I was hoovering, I was in this real rhythm of just flowing backwards and forwards as we were doing it. And the carpet looked beautiful, but it was coming from that really interconnected space of finding rhythm and taking care of what you're doing, and understanding that was going to have a ripple effect in terms of the people stepping into that space and how they'd receive it and all those things. So yeah, that constant flow of between those different ways of knowing and then it manifesting.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, and it's workers' meditation is something that is emphasised, I guess, you know. And to get it is quite a beautiful thing, you know. Like, wow, there's value in what I'm doing right now. And thank you for that. Okay, I think we probably need to start wrapping up. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate your presence in the community, and for your willingness as well to share and speak out into beyond Leela, because now we have this little portal of beyond Leela, people that have been here and love it, and people that are on the path of exploration coming kind of towards us as a possibility, you know, a little twinkle of like, maybe they'll watch this and think, wow, I'd love to go and experience a place such as that. So if you kind of like had to speak into, speak to those people that were thinking about coming to Leela. I mean, we have many programs. We have the community support program, which is currently developing. We have the Living in the Buddha Field program, where you can come and be and rest. And we have some more as well. If you were to speak to the people, could you share?
Yeah, and I've got to mention the woofers as well, because the woofers we've got a woofing program at the moment, which essentially means you can come and work on the grounds, more focused in that space, which really helps us move a lot of projects forward as well. The thing that's coming to me is I worked at an incredible place called the Green School in Bali, which is for anyone who's interested in different ways of being, who's interested in sustainability, it's remarkable. And it is a school, but it's a community, and there's food growing everywhere you walk, and the way that people communicate is different, and the buildings are built out of bamboo. And I remember the first month I was there, I had one carton of orange juice of waste, that was it. So that sort of zero waste kind of lifestyle. And as I've travelled, I've seen this really grassroots rising of, we can be different and we can live differently. And here reminds me of Bali and that space that I was in. You can experience that in England in a really unique way, with all those elements of sustainability happening. Incredible opportunities for meditations that I've never experienced. I've recently done a meditation teacher training course, but the meditations here are absolutely incredible. The way people are, the things that happen on the grounds, the vision for what's happening next. So it's all just here in England happening. So come and explore it.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much, Shyen. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And so if you are watching this and you're feeling inspired, please check out our website. Please check out ways of being here in person. Have a look back at the channel. Check out some more of the other podcasts, and find your way to Leela if it feels and it resonates to you. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Aurora for being our queen filming lady in the background. And thank you to you for watching. Take care. Bye.